What is up, everybody? I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. I found an interesting patent from Bank of America that is from a couple months ago. I do want to put a gigantic grain of salt behind it. It does mention Hashgraph, but it might be I'm not positive if it's talking about like Hedera or if it's just talking about like hashing in general. But it's surrounding like AI and neural networks. So I'll share that with you. But again, with a caveat. But tons of stuff going on today. I wanted to actually kind of just dive a little bit into this. So this is rwa.xyz. This is basically showing you, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen this, but maybe some of you haven't, all of the real world assets that have been tokenized on chain globally, right? I'm sure it's missing a couple of things that aren't integrated on here, but in general, I think this is a really cool site and a resource to kind of look through. And it really puts things into perspective as far as where we're at right now. And I'm going to stick with this tokenization theme of real world assets, of data, of, everything. Because 15.32 billion kind of at face value looks like it might be a big number. It is literally a drop, not even a drop in the bucket, not even like mist in the bucket. But yeah, this site's really cool. You can navigate through it. Total RWA value, non-US government debt, 103 million, institutional funds, 375 million, 1.10 billion commodities, US Treasury debt, 4 billion, private credit, 9.8 billion. To put into perspective, I mean, there's lots of numbers that kind of float around. As far as when you include like derivative markets and things like that, you start getting up into the like above the quadrillion dollar number. Check this site out though, and I'm going to go through a couple more things here, but this is app.rwa.xyz. This is free to search around in, and I did like a thought experiment for ChatGPT, and I didn't use the quadrillion dollars because you don't even have to. But this is saying total world assets. ChatGPT spit out 500 trillion. I believe that like the real estate market just alone is like 370 trillion. So this is definitely low compared to what actually exists out there. But I put 500 trillion on a bar chart right next to 15 billion. And you can see where we're at right now as far as what's actually been tokenized, real world assets on chain. I have said this before. I think that this chart, I mean, to give you an idea of how this is trending, July of 2021, total assets, real world assets on chain, 690 million. July of 2022, 3 billion. July of 2023, 7 billion. Right now, 15 billion. I think that this chart is going to basically look even more dramatic than if you were to look at what was the price of Bitcoin in 2009, and can I even see it on the chart? And a quadrillion dollars divided by 15 billion. I'm not a fan of all the sixes, but this isn't a percent. This is just a multiplier. It would take 66,606x. I know in crypto people always talk about the 100x, or there's certainly been 1,000x's. This is 66,666x for all assets tokenized. I'm not saying that all assets get tokenized immediately. I know that might get said. But I do think that you have to kind of step back and think like, okay, what is a real world asset? We can always think of kind of the low hanging fruit there, but is the data that I generate a real world asset? Does it have value? Seemingly has value to platforms that appear to be free where I'm the product, right? So I would imagine, yes. We talk about self-custody and crypto all the time. I do believe that we get to a point with digital identity and all the other stuff that ties in that we are going to basically be the gatekeepers of our data. Some people certainly are at this point right now, but when you're interacting on platforms and you choose to spend time doing something and it appears to be free, there's a reason for that, right? You are the product, whether it's through advertisements or whatever it may be. And that does come with an inherent value. And we have been left out of that value loop for a long, long time. And I do believe at some point in time we get tied into that value loop, and then you have to think, okay, well, my data might be a real world asset. Yeah, I just think it's super interesting. 15 billion is 0.0015% of a quadrillion. And a lot of people that I've talked to, you know, I brought up Lehman a couple of times, but we interviewed him last month for DREC, and he talks about the tokenization of everything. Richard Baer, VP of Software Engineering at Hedera, that I interviewed in December as well, says the same thing. I'm going to play this just briefly for you.
We are heading to a future where everything of value will be tokenized, which is just, it's the same reason everything moved from paper into databases when databases were invented. It's faster, it's more efficient, it's more secure, it has so many advantages. It's ultimately going to happen. Gold and stocks and bonds and real estate and these sorts of things, and they'll be traded, and the derivatives that built on top of those will all be traded. Those are things that enterprises care about. Those will be tokenized because it lets you do things faster and more secure and much cheaper. Also, what will be tokenized is cryptocurrency itself will bring banking to the unbanked. There's a billion people that can't get a bank account because they don't have identity. We're bringing that to them. That's going to happen. We're going to see tokenization of things like the ability to be part of a DAO and be able to vote in it and socialize with other people there and make it as a whole do things. It'll be tokenizing assets in games. Kids playing games will be earning assets they can take to another game, and they can own it, and it's actually yours. Not your key, not your crypto, not your magic laser sword or whatever. It's you will own your own stuff. So this is going from the very smallest children up to major enterprises. It will affect governments with voting systems. It will affect education all across the board. And in all these cases, all these new people using it will only experience this new great future when we give them the power to own something, and they don't have to worry about losing it.
So, I mean, he's talking about DREC Alliance there as one example for custody of your assets. But yeah, DREC's awesome too. I've talked about that a bunch. But sticking to kind of tokenization, this is obviously big news. But I mean, this puts really into context. Like, I saw this a couple of days ago, and I felt like I'd bring it up in this. But Mantra blockchain to tokenize $1 billion worth of real world assets for United Arab Emirates based property firm DAMAC. And you put that into context, right? Like, I just showed you that chart of all of crypto and all of blockchain, total real world assets on chain of 15 billion. This one project is going to be 1/15 of this now. So it's going to, you know, that if you included it into this would be 16.32 billion, which is what, maybe 6.001511111% now. Like, it's literally like so small, and a drop in the bucket as compared to where we're heading with this. I actually looked this up, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen Archax over the past, let's say, 6 to 9 months here. They actually started out kind of the tokenization journey, their tokenization engine. I believe they say the same thing, by the way. I did a video on this. I know I did a video on this like a year ago. Archax had a PDF that was like their tokenization engine, and it showed all of the world's assets that they believe everything's going to be tokenized. But I think that the first initiative that they had was through Aberdeen's Lux Money Market Fund on Hedera, the 15 billion pound or euro Lux Money Market Fund. That was like a year and a half ago. Portions of that tokenized on Hedera. And then you saw portions of a BlackRock fund that Archax tokenized. Obviously, integration with XRP now, integration with Algorand now, integration with XDC now. You can see all of the chains and players that Archax has kind of tentacles out into. So definitely pay attention to the stuff that Archax is doing and players like Archax. Huge news in tokenization again, coming out of Algorand. This is Exodus. This is the first crypto wallet to list on a major stock exchange, and the stock, Exode is the ticker, is tokenized on Algorand. Yield Tech and XDC, USTY, US Treasury tokens. Providing an exposure to an ETF that seeks to track the investment results of an index composed of US dollar denominated government bonds. The ETF is managed by BlackRock. The administrator is State Street. I mean, this is crazy. This is through Yield Tech. So Trade Tech and Yield Tech, and you can see the XDC contract ID here. Again, all to put under the context that this is like literally nothing. 81,919 asset holders. I don't know. I look at this. as far as tokenization and as far as real world assets and what could be considered, there are real world assets that we're not even thinking about right now. And it really, again, just comes into like zooming out and looking at where we're at with this tech. I mean, you know, there's articles that have come out. Let me share. I'll actually share this first. Enough about the tokenization stuff. I think most people here realize the impact and the implications. But so I found this patent. And again, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that this is definitively Hashgraph, but it says Hashgraph in it. It's artificial intelligence supported graph enabled method to manage upgrades for applications. This is like a 2-part patent. If I back up, I might not find the other one. I think I can actually. Yeah, artificial intelligence supported graph enabled method to manage like enterprise upgrades, and then I think this is the second part of it: system and method to dynamically analyze metadata. And aspects of disclosure relate to upgrading an application within a simulated version of an enterprise system. So why would they need to simulate versions of enterprise systems to detect and correct potential errors as a result of the upgrade? So this is essentially, like, from my super rudimentary looking at this, they're basically trying to safeguard upgrades within enterprise traditional systems by simulating those environments and seeing what may go wrong utilizing artificial intelligence, right? So this is saying that this computing platform may create this simulated version of the enterprise system by receiving metadata associated with the enterprise system and converting the metadata into system parameters, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I found this, which I thought was interesting in here. This is saying the AI engine may comprise of complex neural networks that may trace the node differences on a real-time basis and suggest fixes to remediate identified errors. In some instances, Hashgraph nodes may dynamically update based on remediation actions suggested to fix gaps and also provide libraries / package difference evaluation for analysis. So again, mentioning Hashgraph nodes, not saying this is definitively Hedera or the Hashgraph, but this is assigned to Bank of America. This was filed in June of last year and publicized in October of last year. So did find it interesting. Again, Algorand, I wanted to give a shout out to them. Staking rewards coming, so delegated staking. I think that's happening this month, actually. And after kind of briefly looking at this too, I believe no lockup periods, which I think is very similar to what you see. That's what happens on Hedera. There's no lockup period for staking, kind of like auto stake. I'm not sure if you auto stake on Algorand, but I do know there's no lockup, no slashing, low cost, real-time rewards. I did want to say, coming off the heels of the AI stuff, Algorand went native Python last year. And for people that kind of understand like developer communities and stuff, I went to a conference in July or August. It was PyCon. So it's like the Python conference, right? And you see like a couple of different industries really represented with like Python coding language. You see certainly the financial services industry. You see like machine learning and Internet of Things as well. And out of that entire conference, there was only one blockchain there, and it was Algorand. So I thought that was just something interesting to bring up. Obviously, Python conference, but I believe they're the only layer 1 blockchain that may have changed over the past handful of months, but may not have, that is native Python now. So super interesting. I mean, especially when we talk about AI, I know AI agents are trending right now. Trump has financial advisors changing their tune on crypto. I remember my buddy that I've been friends with since I was a kid. He's a financial advisor. And I think this was back in 2020-ish timeframe, 2019, 2020. And I was talking to him about crypto, and he's like saying how his firm, like he's heard of it, his firm would never touch anything like that. Obviously, very similar story to what we hear across the board from a lot of people. And look, technology doesn't stop. So, I mean, people change their tune just because it's the beast of technology, right? Like this space isn't stopping. I think this says about half of the polled financial advisors in a recent survey from, I think this was Bitwise, said they're more likely to invest in crypto. Makes sense, right? Because you see like the Standard Charters of the world. We just talked about that yesterday. And the BlackRocks of the world with their Aladdin platform and Coinbase Prime back in 2022, like $21.7 trillion or whatever it is, just by a third of those clients having access into digital assets and crypto. So, you will see crypto in retirement funds. You will see, you can already kind of put it in an IRA through a couple of platforms, but you will see like mass spread investment portfolios. It's obviously coming. Trump's day one. I saw this in Market Watch. Incoming president looks set to act on tariffs, crypto tech, energy, and immigration. I saw this too, which I'm not a big fan of. Obviously, safety of your assets is important, but this is saying like self-custodial wallets. This is this is a CFTC, I believe, or CFPB. Seeking to expand the scope of the Electronic Fund Transfer Act to cover digital assets such as stablecoins, crypto tokens designed to maintain a stable value, and other fungible tokens used for payments. If adopted, the expansion would redefine funds to include assets that act as money, essentially saying that the proposal would change a rule saying that service providers would need to compensate users for stolen funds. It kind of goes right against the naming convention in and of itself, right? Like self-custodial wallet, not your keys, not your crypto. How would you impose refunds on a self-custodial wallet? Because you're the one custodying it, right? You're in charge of your keys. I don't get it, but I'm sure we'll see more of this type of stuff. I do think it's important, obviously, safeguarding consumers and making sure that people can get compensated if there's like a breach or whatever it may be in certain in those regards. But as far as like, let's not like murder self-custodial wallet innovation by imposing unnecessary legislation on them, because at the end of the day, if it's the user's fault, it's the user's fault, right? Saw this is coming out of the Qatar Financial Center. I think this is I think they're a couple weeks late on this, but let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this is two key players in the digital assets lab of the Qatar Financial Center have entered into a strategic partnership to accelerate the impact of DLT and digital assets across industries. This is the Hashgraph group, as well as Settlement. If you want to look into more of what Settlement is doing and who trusts them as far as integrations are concerned, Sony, Coca-Cola, Standard Chartered again, Fujitsu, Kawasaki. So pretty interesting. And then this came out. This is Giuseppe and Devrin. They're compiling research on leaders in the CBDC realm, which I think is interesting, because if you actually step back and if you paid attention over the past year or two, the stablecoin initiatives have really picked up where CBDCs have kind of lagged. And I think that that's because bank deposit backed stablecoins are just a little bit of a clearer path towards clarity from the regulation standpoint. But you still see CBDC vendors up in here and reports and the leaderboard here. You see Ripple, established leaders, Giuseppe and Devron, Fidelity Information Services, MTech, R3, Accenture, Consensus, Stellar, Soromitsu, very familiar names everywhere, but did find it interesting. And then WePay and Zenny partnered to launch digital travel payments in the Caribbean. This is, again, an initiative that ties in with the Hedera ecosystem. But yeah, take this patent with a grain of salt. There's two of them. There's this artificial intelligence supported graph-enabled method to manage upgrades for enterprise systems, which does mention Hashgraph. And I think the other one is this systems and method. I'll see if it does. Systems and methods to, or maybe it's not this one. So there was another one. There was a second one in here. They were the same, like they were like sister patents, basically same dates, just a little bit of a different naming convention. But yeah, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if it's actually Hashgraph or not, but I did want to bring it up to you guys. And again, looking at where we're at right now as far as RWAs, tokenized on chain, some of the players involved, as well as literally, it being 0.0015%. 66,666x to get to $250 billion. And obviously split that in half to 500 trillion. So yeah, real estate alone is like 370 trillion, I believe, which is, you know, obviously massive. And the real estate industry is like one that hasn't really even been that disrupted yet. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys when I talk to you. Thanks. Bye.